All right. So I am talking to Jennifer Holland. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent. We are talking about your book. This is your newest book, right?
It is.
Dog Smart. Oops. Let's get that right there. Yeah, fix that. Oh, yay. There you go. Because I have to have a thing behind me. So excellent. And before we get completely into what the book is about, it is available on Amazon, right?
Yes.
And where else can people find you and the book?
So the book, bnn.com is another place people have picked it up. Some of the brick and mortar stores have it. Some of them you have to ask them to order it. And I appreciate when people do that because I'd love for it to be more widespread in those shops. And then my website is jenniferhollandwriter.com, and you can link to it from that space as well.
Excellent. I'll put your link down in the description of this video. So we'll get that information out there. I love the dogs on the cover too. Are these dogs that you know or not necessarily?
They're not. There's one dog that is. I snuck in one dog from the book in the. It's actually on the back cover, and I'll give it away. It's this one. Odin is the one facing in on the back, and he makes a number of appearances in the book. He's a very special dog to me. But the others are just from a photographer who does these portraits. And I said I'd love to do a cover that's kind of reminiscent of the Brady Bunch, but with dogs. And that's kind of where we went with it. So it was a lot of fun just to kind of pick and choose the faces that were going to appear.
I like that. That's awesome. I did not read the entire book yet. I'm still reading it. We've had a lot of action down here in Florida, so I've been very distracted. But what I have read, one of the things I think we'll just dive right into the book if you don't mind. Let's talk about your experience with Jessie.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. Jessie is sort of the first thing in the book, and Jessie was a seeing eye dog in training at the Seeing Eye in New Jersey. And I was very fortunate to get to spend a couple of days there observing kind of what the training looks like and what the dogs are like that they work with. And to go out into New York City and see, dogs in training kind of doing their thing. And in the midst of that, I was given the opportunity to be the visually impaired person and to grab onto that harness and find out what it feels like to walk a couple of blocks in a city without your eyesight. And it was remarkable. I mean, first of all, it's just very hard to keep your eyes closed, and because the tendency of when you're focused on vision is to just look. But you just put your faith in this animal who is just remarkably well trained. They really know what they're doing. They're fast. I mean, this particular dog speeds along. I had no tripping, no injuries, no bumping into anyone. There were, lots of obstacles, lots of crowding on the streets. And it was a really incredible experience, just to feel what that's like and to trust this animal with your life, really, not to walk into the middle of the street. And after seeing how they're trained and just, that they learn when they're allowed to say no, if there's a situation where they have information that the person doesn't have and they have to say no to a command. It's called intelligent disobedience. And yes. I was fascinated by that and got to see that in action a few times as well. So just a really interesting introduction to some of the capabilities that dogs have.
It's really incredible. My interview with Barb, my friend Barb, and her service dog was so great. And I've known Barb for a long time. It was just great to get her perspective, and to have that opportunity for you to be in one of the busiest cities, right? Noisy. And there are not smooth sidewalks in the city. You know, it's bumpy, you know, on a good day, you know, it's like your eyes are open and you're tripping. So it's yeah. So and I was reading that, you know, the dog was going, Jessie was going at a fast pace and all that, and how you were struggling with keeping your eyes closed and just really having to trust this dog. And the what is it? The intelligent disobedience. I talked to Barb about that, and we talked about that with, you know, not crossing the street if it's, you know, the car's going, even if you want to, or not picking something up, you know, if it's in her situation, you know, with her service dog, even if you want them to, or what have you. So that level of intelligence, that's pretty intense, that a dog has that sense.
Yeah.
You know, to just know that. I mean, yes, they're trained.
Right.
And, you know, some dogs make it and some dogs don't, but wow.
But yeah, and to me, it was sort of the thinking that goes behind making that choice to not do what you're being told when you've been trained to respond to commands so, you know, so heavily. Like this training is very intensive that you need to do what you're told. But then, except in these situations and this situation and this situation, and the fact that they can make that judgment call and get it right. You know, yeah, it gave me just a new respect, I think, for dogs that are trained for those kinds of helpful behaviors.
Yeah. How old was Jessie at the time? Do you remember?
I think probably just a young dog. I would say maybe a year, if that. I'm not 100% sure of that. I would have to go back and check.
Yeah, just but in training and
young dog. Yeah. And Jessie does come back later in the book, I'll tell you, since you haven't gotten there yet. So you'll get to hear kind of how it went with Jessie after training. So
yes, yeah. Well, you know, well, definitely let's get back to Jessie about that too. But I there's so many little things that I wanted to talk to you also about behaviorally, like between your dogs, Monk and what is it, Getty?
Getty, yeah.
And yep, I love the interaction on the couch and who's in charge and who's not in charge, or you know, and that type of interaction with your dogs. Let me see, I have these other notes here. I wanted to talk a little bit about people's expectation of their dogs. You know, because you had this amazing experience with Jessie, it's like I feel that sometimes, and that's an extreme case, but sometimes we have dogs. I have clients who have dogs, and they are hardwired to work anyway, like a lab,
yeah,
you know, or you know, Belgian Malinois, and there's all these, you know, destructive behaviors maybe going on, or maybe the dog is nipping, and it's like, well, your dog's a border collie, of course it's nipping. So the expectation, I feel like, needs to meet with the dog's hardwiring. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do. I agree. I think I talk a little bit in the book about, you know, breed being a component, and certainly, you know, there are a lot of strong tendencies that come through breeds. That's why we selectively breed, right? Is to get these certain behaviors and to get that really hardwired in there. Of course, you're going to have a variety within that. You're going to have a huge range within any breed of the commitment to those tasks and that behavior. But I do think, especially, for people getting a dog, to know what to expect from, you know, what is likely, what kind of behavior are you likely to encounter? And if you're ready for that, if you're going to be able to accommodate the needs of that dog that it has, you know, deep down. If it's a border collie and it's intense and it wants to work and it wants to, you know, you have to be ready for that and be willing, I think, to commit to giving the dog what it needs. And that dog's not going to be a couch potato, most likely. And so you should go a different route if that's what you're looking for.
Yes, so, indeed. I mean, we have Troy, and Troy is not, you know, purebred. He's a mix. As far as, you know, Tammy was told when she adopted him, she was told he is boxer beagle mix, and he's on the boxer side, but this dog is hardwired he would have made an amazing scent dog or search and rescue dog. His nose it's constant and it's intense. And, some dogs go through life and all of them have these amazing noses, right?
Right.
And some dogs are just like, whatever.
Yeah.
And you have dogs, yeah. And then you have dogs like Troy, who's is like, and for a while, it took me a minute to observe him and realize that he's not ignoring me. He's actually air scenting.
Mm-hmm.
See his nostrils just going like crazy. So, he would have made a great working dog. But that being said, he was challenging for Tammy. Because he had all this energy and all this knowledge, and I guess that's what I mean about having expectations about the dogs.
For sure.
Let's talk about your dogs. Let's talk about Getty and Monk.
Yeah, I have little odd dogs. So we have a Getty is a Korean Jindo who we rescued. He had been a stray. He's probably a year old or so when we got him, and he's proven to be a challenge. He's kind of a bully. And we brought him into a house with Monk, who is a Japanese Kai Ken, kind of a fluffy, sweet pup, and who is very, very smart in terms of that social interaction, that social intelligence. And it's been fascinating to watch Monk navigate Getty's moods. Getty is moody, and to figure out how to, get through whatever situation there is, and when to kind of back off and when to slink by quietly. And there's just a really interesting dynamic that I've come to really focus on and watch very closely, because I was so interested in this body language and how are they communicating and what messages are Monk getting from Getty that I wouldn't normally notice just in glancing at the situation. And so it's been challenging but fun to observe that and to watch how that plays out. And in the book, I talk about Getty plays checkers, Monk plays chess. That's how my husband puts it. And the idea being Monk is really the slow, it's kind of a slow burn. He's looking ahead. He knows what he's doing. And Getty's kind of the, instinctive, automatic, response to things. And so it's fun just to see the differences in how they think and how they learn and how they respond. So it's been a good education as part of the research for the book, for sure.
Yeah. I find our own dogs are our best teachers for sure. My dogs have taught me a lot. It's fascinating because then you can relate to another person in the same situation as you. Yes. So that's awesome. But so do you think one is more, let's call it dominant, or a lot of people like to say alpha dog and this type of thing. For me, an alpha dog, if you want to put that term on it, is like the dog who just walks away and ignores and is the observant one. And then you have the other one who really wants to be the quote unquote alpha, but they couldn't manage their way out of anything, really. Right. They're terrible managers.
It is funny because people tend to think of it the other way around, but I think you're right. The one in charge may be the one that's more thoughtful and that's, kind of the chess player in the group. But Getty is definitely the one who sets that mood. So they kind of, maybe sort of hand off a little bit back and forth that role. I don't know if it's always one or the other.
Yeah, that's funny. Have you had any growling at one another, like fighting growling, or just the and the ugliness and the noise, but no damage, or what's that like?
They've had some real battles. There was a time where we weren't sure this was going to work, and so that again has been part of the education, is just kind of figuring out how to ensure that those situations don't happen, and looking at what triggers that. What's the resource in the room that seems to get Getty to be protective, or he's very, very protective, he's very resource focused, whatever that is, whether it's attention or food. So we really have had to make sure that the circumstances let them get along, the best that they can. And fortunately, you know, Monk is scrappy and he doesn't back down, which isn't necessarily a good thing, because when they both fought, they keep fighting. There's been a little bit of blood here and there, but I think we have it fairly well under control now, and feeling a little better about it these days.
Yeah, it can be stressful, you know, and it's like, it's never going to be 100%. I always tell people that, you know, if you want to keep your dogs, both of your dogs, in this situation, let's look at the reality of it. And it's never going to be 100%, because we're human and they're animals. Like, we're all animals. We're all going to make mistakes. What can you live with, and you know, that type of thing, and how do you want to set it up? So yes, and that is another lesson I learned with a couple of my dogs, who happen to be, one was well, mine was a Jack Russell Terrier, of course, and then the other one was a Wheaten Terrier, not a Wheaten Terrier, Wizard of Oz dog. Karen Terrier.
Yeah, is it Karen?
I think he was a Karen. No, maybe not a Karen, but Miles was a Karen Terrier mix. And let me just tell you what that was craziness of aggression. I was like, what? I've had Rottweilers and I've had all kinds of dogs. I had 5 dogs at one time. Never had any problems at all. Get a couple of little
yappies. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Holy crap. Like, give me the big dogs any day.
I'm with you.
Yeah. How old are your dogs now?
They're older. So Monk is, I think, 12, and Getty is 10 and a half or so. So they're not young dogs anymore. Great. And still figuring each other out after all these years. So
yeah, I know. It's like a process.
It really is.
that dog to dog relationship. Let's talk about Jessie again. The other part of Jessie's story.
Yeah. So toward the end of the book, we come back around to Jessie to sort of see how did things turn out, because the dog was in training when I met her the first time, and I was able to speak to her owner, who was, you know, losing her sight. She still had some sight. And so she was training with the dog kind of before she's fully blind, which I think is really an incredible opportunity for a person, you know, to get to do that. I'm sure that helps a lot in, you know, the future relationship. But yeah, Jessie, not to spoil it, but Jessie is a success, and it's a happy ending with Jessie. Definitely has changed the life of this woman who, you know, felt like she was losing her life, and she had, you know, was trying with the cane and was trying all the other technologies that you can use, but really felt that the dog added not just an assistant, but, you know, an empathetic character and a care aspect to her life. There's a kind of social intelligence and empathy that some dogs really do shine in, and Jessie is definitely one of those. So it was nice to hear that things went in that direction in the end.
That's so awesome. Yeah, it's really incredible, that bond, and I have not yet experienced it, but that bond with a service dog or a seeing eye dog, a guide dog, you know, is just, you're relying on them so much, and yet they rely on you too to take care of them. Sure. But it's like a next level relationship, you know.
Yeah. And one of the newer ones that they're looking at is, you know, Alzheimer's dogs, which is really a remarkable idea, because here is a situation, you know, that is going to be potentially so inconsistent. You know, there's so many situations within that where the dog might be treated differently, or the person doesn't know where they are, who they are, and just things can change so quickly, and that a dog can be trained and understand how to manage you know, an evolving situation like that, I think is really incredible. And they're, you know, my sense is that's still a work in progress, but that they're having a lot of success with, especially again, starting early, and the dog and the person have a relationship, and the dog really seems to, you know, shine in that situation and kind of figure out how to navigate the changes that are happening.
That's fascinating, because there are so many erratic changes that can happen behaviorally with the human.
Yeah.
You know, anger or
Right.
I mean, Troy is very unflappable. Like if I drop something and I get frustrated and I start screaming and cursing because I'm pissed off because it's like 5 o'clock and I'm tired, he comes over. He's like, "What's going on?"
Mhm.
Whereas some other dog might be like, "Oh, incoming, run,"
Yeah. Yeah.
or not even give a crap of what's going on. You have that too. But I think unflappable dogs in that way would probably be good because of that erratic thing, but behavior possibly. But yeah, that's interesting. Where are they doing that? Are they doing studies or just checking it out in different nursing homes or units that are?
Most of what I found is it was actually overseas. There was a woman in Italy and a gentleman actually in Israel who I talked to who were kind of working on this and trying to figure out what, as you said, the unflappable dogs. They're sort of looking at what breeds would make the most sense to be able to handle these kinds of situations, and they're sort of testing the waters on that. So I don't know that there are a lot of people with Alzheimer's service dogs yet. But I think that might be something that we'll see more of in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think maybe some of that maybe they could take something from maybe PTSD service
Mm-hmm.
dogs.
Yeah.
Because I'd imagine there might need to be a certain amount of unflappability there too. I
Yeah.
don't know. And it's not always the purebred dog either.
Right.
So
Yep.
a lot to be um, explored. Although these days I'm finding that most mutts or what you and I used to, whatever, call mutts or what I used to call mutts or whatever, are more just like pretty much, like Troy, Boxer Beagle, or,
Mhm.
and now you have the designer breeds where they're mixing, two different breeds and, like Labradoodles and that type
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. We're not getting that much of a blend
Mm.
genetically with them, so that's kind of it's something to look at for sure. But and
Mhm.
of course they're more advanced in Italy and Israel with this. Of course they are. My goodness, but I did want to maybe
Mhm.
touch on if we kind of did a little bit, but do we do enough as dog owners to meet their intellect and their emotional intelligence and just their overall intelligence, whether they're, you know, bred for something specific or just a regular pet dog type of.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a really good question because I think as owners and dog lovers, we feel like we give them such an amazing life. It's so easy, they just lie around and they get to walk and they get kibble and veterinary care and all that. And I think that's all great. But I do think that in adapting to our world and following our rules. And, there are constraints put on the species, so the Canis familiaris is its own creature and it's not a wolf. It's very different from a wolf. And I think in taking them into our homes, we change their access to some of their natural intelligences, their natural tools. We don't maybe give them enough time to use that olfaction, that olfactory intelligence they have. We tend to rush them along, in terms of their communicative intelligence with other dogs. I think we sometimes fail there a little bit because we don't give them the socialization they need. Where, if you go to a dog park or something like that, there's such a varying degree of tolerance for the kinds of interactions dogs have. So somebody is comfortable with rough play, somebody else doesn't like it. There's a lot of, I think, tenseness sometimes in that environment that maybe takes away from the dog's experience, just being a dog. And so I do try in the book to get into a little bit of what are ways that we can give them opportunities, let them be dogs, do the things that we might find distasteful in some way, sniffing and rolling and some of the icky stuff that they do. And just remember that this is a different species. I mean, the fact that they are this entirely different animal from us, and that they experience the world very differently. Their sensory experience is very different. And we just forget that. We think of them as our little buddies or our kids or whatever we call them. And we mean well. I don't think most dogs aren't complaining, but I just think we can do a little better in remembering the differences and honoring that in our relationship with the dog.
That's so well said.
Thank you.
Really, just honoring, you're welcome, just like honoring them for being the dog that they are.
Exactly.
Because it's so true. And trying to remember that even though we don't hear something and the dog is barking, that they hear something that's probably a block or so away.
Right.
Or maybe next door. Who the hell knows what
right,
they're
right.
They are hearing something.
Somewhere underground. I mean, they can detect stuff just so some of the detection abilities are out of this world. And it was great fun to dig into some of that and understand the science of their sensory systems, and just how intense and how detailed that world must be for them, and how they navigate that and sort out what's important and what's just background noise, whether it's scent or sound or whatever it is. So just, interesting stuff.
Yeah. Our dog Bella, she's passed recently. We have moles or God knows what else in Florida, underground or whatever. and and they're like, little trails you could see. And she would sit out there and just sit and listen. And I'm like, she is listening to underground, whatever is happening. And then she would dig and whatever, she was quite the digger. But yeah, it was cute, but it was also fascinating at the same time.
Yeah.
No, it's like she's so tuned in. She was so tuned into that. So
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting for sure. I did some tracking, just real basic, with one of my Jack Russells, who was an incredible tracker and just had so much fun with him, and one of my colleagues does, a lot of what she does is based on scent work. And it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah. And there's so many things that they can detect that we're now, it's like we're learning more and more that they can also smell, this disease, and they can also smell a gas leak underground, and they can smell a particular, invasive species if you train them on that scent. And then of course the cadaver work and the old ancient bones that they can, figure out where they're buried, and the tools that we have to measure how sensitive their noses are probably aren't even powerful enough, some of the scientists told me, to say, what that threshold is. So which is fascinating. Like, why would they need it to be that detailed? I mean, it's kind of an incredible thing, I guess, at some early stage of life in the canine world, that comes in very handy. But now it kind of goes to waste a little bit, I think.
I mean, since they're on our couches a lot, but, and some dogs are like so happy to be on the couch, but the minute they get up to go out, it's like, boom, hard wiring kicks in, whatever their thing is, whatever they're bred for. But yeah, definitely. It's just watching them, learning, being able to watch them and just learn about what is going on inside their head, like just stepping back a little bit and looking at them from their perspective. We give owners, who are struggling with different things, and even ourselves with struggling with different things, just a different way of looking at it from the dog's point of view.
Right. And we can learn the simplest things, like my dog Monk, regardless of his status in the household, he's the most joyful. I mean, he just wakes up happy. He's just happy, and the tail goes and his ears are up. And there's just this joy in him that when I look at him, I think, okay, I just take a breath and just try to be in that moment where this dog is, because he seems to be in that moment, all the time. He's just right there. being particularly happy and content with whatever's happening around him. And that's just such a nice way to be if we can manage it.
It is, because they do live in the moment.
Sure.
I think that's why they can get into a fight and then be okay.
Yeah.
Some cases for a very long time, or they're not like grudge holders. I don't think they, destroy things and crap on our rugs on purpose.
Right.
Like some people have claimed for sure. And I'm like, no. Not like
I thought it was a good idea at the time for some reason. It felt good at the moment, and then they were done with it. And even the idea that, when people say, oh, I came in and I could tell, he was sorry. And I don't think he's sorry. He's not happy that you're unhappy, but I don't know that they attribute that to the thing that I don't know that there's that connection there quite the way we like to anthropomorphize that there is.
Exactly, because I feel as if they're reacting to your body language.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Because you could say the same things, like you could be pissed off and call your dog. I use this as an example. If you want to curse at your dog when they're not coming to you, that's fine, but just be happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, you bastard!
Yes, damn you!
Whatever. If that's what you need to do, who cares? Because just keep it happy, keep it light.
Yeah.
And I do like what you said about like taking in the dog's perspective. Like you wake up or whatever, some point during the day, you look at your dog and they're wagging their tail or whatever, and you're like, yeah, there it is.
That's what I take a lesson. Take a little lesson.
Yep. Moment by moment. Is there anything else that, there's so many gems in here, and I can't wait to, this is part of my routine, is reading in the morning or listening to books. And so this has been worked back into it. And I just want to know if there's anything else in here that you're like, I want to just share with people.
I think what's strong about the book to me is that I was able to bring in science, but in a very accessible way. And then, thank goodness, despite the pandemic, I was able to go into the field and have a lot of interactions with working dogs and their owners and handlers and trainers, and really just bring in the story side of things and then the personal experience. And so weaving that all together, I feel makes it, a very readable account, and hopefully something people can, everybody can pluck something out of there that feels relevant to them or that they recognize in themselves. And it just tries to give us a new way or another way of thinking about intelligence and stepping outside of our own tendencies to define things a certain way and to appreciate, another species for the things that they do well and what has allowed them to, how adaptive dogs have been for all of time that they've existed to fill this niche with us and to, be everywhere we are and to live this very luxurious life with us. And yet there are, millions of dogs on the street who also have an existence that isn't necessarily a wrong existence for a dog. It's just a different one, and I've come to appreciate a little more too, just what the life of a street dog looks like, and whether that's, we tend to want to clean that all up. And I feel a little differently about that now. I really sort of see that as in some ways a legitimate life. Dogs are living it, millions of them. So, so there must be something they're doing right there. So.
I don't know, opportunist, scavenger ship, and I don't know if that's a word. I just made a word up.
They're using all that natural stuff, to sell. Yeah.
Yeah. You never know. You never know. Yeah, I think our dogs have got it good. But yeah, when I went to Greece a long time ago, there were dogs just out on the street.
Yeah.
Hanging out, or was on an island for most of the vacation because, it was amazing, and we decided let's just stay here. And there was a dog. I almost took this dog home.
Mm-hmm.
I was so going to take him home, but you know, for whatever reason, I don't know. I already had dogs at home anyway. So, but yeah, it's a completely different way in other countries too, and that. So yeah, and the overpopulation thing is a whole nother topic, but yeah, you know, and displacement of animals. So I think that a lot of displacement or, you know, abandonment, or, you know, dogs that wind up in shelters are, you know, it's mostly really because of behavior issues. And then things like your book, if it stays in focus, can help people with a different get a different perspective.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, this is a great book. I'm so happy that you came on to talk about the book. And yeah, I wanna talk again. We'll talk again for sure.
Absolutely. I would love that.
Definitely. And I also want to tell my listeners out there, subscribers, first of all, like, share, and subscribe, please, on my channels and YouTube and Spotify and Apple, wherever you get your podcast. But this book, I'm going to do a giveaway. There it is.
Great.
Giveaway. And this is going to be given to, let's say, I don't know, Jennifer, help me come up with a giveaway idea. Maybe somebody who, I don't know,
shares a story, or I don't know.
Shares a story, or stuffs a dog's Kong every day for a week.
There we go.
Documents it.
Wow. Nice.
Too much? That might be too much.
Lets their dog sniff for a full 5 minutes during their walk.
And they document it. You can't just tell us, okay? You got, in this day and age, you've gotta document your time. So sniffing, Kong stuffing, and what was the first one?
I don't know if we had a first one, but we can pick one.
Maybe we did. Kong stuffing thing. How's about
dog-centric? How are you dog-centric? Share your explanation.
I like that. Yes, and you will get this book by Jennifer Holland, and I will link Jennifer in the description wherever I'm posting this, which is going to be pretty much everywhere: YouTube, here on Spotify, Apple, Facebook, and Instagram. So we got everything covered. But okay, great. All right, Jennifer, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. It was great talking with you.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.